Hi, welcome back to the Adventures channel, or to new viewers. Hello, welcome for the first time.
Yeah, it's been 5 months since our last video, and the funny thing about the last video was I had a sudden prompting that we needed to film the last video we did urgently, and so we were out for dinner, I think at Bedok,
Yes.
and we decided to come back and then quickly set up and we recorded that last video, which was a very difficult video.
Yeah.
But guess what? Immediately that night, she went into labor.
Yeah. So I was getting ready all the thumbnails and writing the descriptions, and I think because we had such an urgent prompting to do it, I wanted to get it done before I went to bed. So by the time I went to bed, it was probably about like 2 a.m. already. And I had even written like a journal entry of like the details of that day just to remember and to close this chapter. So I had just gotten to bed. Daniel was already asleep. I was like, okay, everything is scheduled. It's going to go live on its own the next morning. And at 3 a.m., contractions started. And I was in bed and I was like, is this real? Is this because I've been having Braxton Hicks the whole time in the last trimester, and it just felt different. And I knew, wow, this is the real deal. And so I kind of labored silently on my own. I was kind of like on all fours on the bed and just going through my breathing exercises that I had learned and just trying to labor silently on my own without waking Daniel, because I knew that this was going to be like I wanted him to get as much rest as he could so that he could be a good support for me. And so I started tracking my contractions, the surges as well, the time interval between them. And I think it was about 5 a.m. where I started like doing these primal sounds that, I couldn't hold it in anymore. It started to get a bit more painful. And so, I was just laboring on the bed, and then Daniel woke up. And I was worried, honestly, because I hadn't gotten any sleep, at most half an hour. And I knew that this was going to be a very physical process. We had been preparing for labor. And what was it like when you woke up at 5 a.m.?
Yeah, I just saw you in a bit of discomfort, so I asked, "Are you okay?" And you said you think you're having your contractions now, and I was like, "Wow, serious?" So I just like sprung out of bed, and we rehearsed some stuff, we wanted to stay home as long as possible before
Yes.
going to the hospital because it's just more comfortable. So yeah, I just made sure everything was packed. I asked, "How are you okay?" And I ran you a bath, in our bathtub, and so that you could relax. And yeah, we just kept tracking the contractions. And of course,
Yeah.
I was also still really tired, but excited as well because, 9 months of preparation, and this was the day. And yeah, I think it just felt so relieved that we finished the previous video,
Yes.
to really close that chapter. I think we wanted to make sure we didn't only share the good things,
Yeah.
even in our struggles, in our marriage and our own personal lives, we felt that we needed to close that chapter. And really, God gave us that prompting to do it that night. And, yes, it definitely made us more tired going into the labor, but I think it was just perfect timing, really.
Yeah, I felt the same way. That thank God that we recorded that. I don't think that was what caused me to go into labor, but I believed like we were obedient to that prompting and we got it done because we were occupied then for the next 5 months. I mean, this video didn't even come out. We haven't even sat down to record this video in the 5 months that Judah has been here with us. And so we had done all the things. Like I got my L10s machine and Daniel helped me put it on. And I really just tried to have as natural a labor process as possible. So maybe you can talk about like the philosophy going into this, our headspace when we decided what we wanted for the birth plan. So right at the beginning, when we discovered we were pregnant, this was fresh off coming back from our sabbatical in April. I took the pregnancy test and we realized I was pregnant. And the first thing I thought of was to reach out to a doula to actually do a consultation to find out what she calls like the birth landscape in Singapore. And I was of the mind that I really wanted an unmedicated water birth. And actually, my ideal was to have a home birth. But I mean, we talked about this and we prayed about it and we tried to find a middle ground because it was going to be my first pregnancy and labor, and we didn't know what to expect. So it made Daniel feel safer if we were in a hospital. So the only place that has facilities for a water birth in a hospital setting was Thomson Medical. And so I remember quite early on, we already went to do a tour of the premises at Thomson. And maybe if I can speak also about why I wanted an unmedicated water birth, I had been following different Instagram accounts, and after reading the Bible as well, I know that God has uniquely designed the female body to handle pregnancy and labor. And so I wanted to go through the whole process without first defaulting to pain relieving methods or intervention. And I wanted to really appreciate what God's design is like for the human body to undergo all these things. And right at the beginning of this whole process, even before I was pregnant, even before we had the desire to have children, the question that God posed me was, do you trust me with my body? And if I said yes at that point, which I did, I have to trust Him all the way. And that involves every plan and every desire, every ideal I have for pregnancy and childbirth. And we would, later we will talk about all the entire journey of surrender, which was over and over again. And so we went into this situation thinking that I was going to have a water birth, which is quite unconventional, I guess. Only Thomson has it, and there are only 2 water birth suites. However, along the pregnancy process, even by the end, Judah was still breech, meaning he was butt down. His head never turned. Along the whole process, I had to surrender my ideal childbirth scenario to the Lord and really just tell the Lord, you know best. I still had the faith that He could turn right at the last moment, but if not, the key 3 words, but if not, God is still good, and I know that my life, His life, and Daniel's life are still in God's hands. Yeah, so let's go back to that morning where labor started. I believe the contractions were about 3 minutes apart because we didn't want to go so early. So we kind of cut it pretty close in my view. Maybe 5 minutes or 3 minutes, I don't remember.
I can't remember the exact amount, but we were following your app. And we probably chilled at home for about an hour.
Yeah.
And then I
went
think
into
about
the bath as well. Yeah.
just to relax and prepare. And I think about 6:30 a.m. or so.
Yes, we set off.
The app said,
Go to the hospital.
Yeah, just go to the hospital now. So we trusted the app. And we just set off, and it was a Sunday morning, so traffic was so smooth.
There was no one at all on the roads.
Yeah, we reached before 7 to Gleneagles. So so we had a really amazing gynae, Dr. Lai.
Yes.
And his view was that if he doesn't turn, then the water birth would not be possible.
Yes.
So we toured Thomson, we toured the water
Very
birth
early
suites
on.
very
Yeah.
early on, but if it was going to be
Natural
birth,
breech delivery.
yeah, Dr. Lai wanted to do it at Gleneagles. So we went to tour and we found that we loved Gleneagles.
Yes.
Their philosophy and everything just felt right. And so we decided to go with Gleneagles. And so I think even how we wanted to do the birth, was of course because he was still breech all the way to the end. So there was of course 2 options. Either you could do a C-sec or still a breech natural delivery. And of course that would still be closer to what you wanted, a more natural birth, and because we want to have as many children as possible as well. So we had many conversations with Dr. Lai, and I just asked him straight out, for the safety of mom and child, between C-sec or natural breech, which would you go for? He said because he's so experienced with natural breech deliveries and he does so many a month, and he can't speak for other gynaes, but for him it's really 50-50. He's equally confident in both, and it's really up to us. And I think we decided to go ahead with the natural breech delivery.
Yes.
And this is even after knowing that Judah had one round of umbilical cord around
a
his
loop around his neck.
loop around his neck, and it wasn't tight. It wasn't affecting him.
Yeah.
But Dr. Lai felt that even with that, he feels that it's loose enough in the cord that it will just slip off upon delivery. But yeah, we're just amazed by his confidence, because I think most gynaes would not do a breech delivery with a baby having a cord around his neck. And so, but yeah, we had faith, and yeah, we just went ahead with that. And yeah, so that's what led us to Gleneagles. So we reached about 7 and we just checked straight in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were the only
I was the only person
giving
laboring
birth that day. So we
went straight into the delivery suite, which was nice. And so the entire labor was done in there. I didn't have to transfer or anything. And I just wanted to bring up something that that got brought to mind, which was actually a few weeks before he came. We were out on a walk, and then our friend Levin, he suddenly messaged us and he said, Judah is coming. So I was like, what do you mean? We haven't even packed our hospital bags. And he said that he had a dream, and in a dream that he saw that, Judah was going to be here earlier than expected, but not super early, which ended up to be true. He came
2 days early.
Yeah, 2 days before his estimated due date, which is incredible. And also, Levin not knowing anything, we've never shared anything about the scans or whatever. He basically said, like, there's a loop, but there will be enough slack. Yeah. So we're like, okay, we had the confidence that it was also echoed, that same sentiment was echoed by Dr. Lai himself. He wasn't worried that it was going to do anything to Judah. And yeah, it was his confidence and he was so calm about it, very matter of fact, like C-sec or breech natural delivery is 50-50 to him. And so yeah, we had the peace to go ahead with natural breech delivery. My idea was still unmedicated, so I really did a birth course and really tried to do all the prep, the mental prep as well as the spiritual prep, like to really pray and have the faith that God could make this a supernatural childbirth and have it pain-free. But if not, it's still good. I will still submit to his plan. And when we were checked into the labor suite, the childbirth suite, I just felt it was really comfortable actually. There was plenty of space to move around, and I was kind of like bending over a lot because I really wanted to just anticipate each surge and just flow with it and utilize all my breathing techniques. And we had worship music. I had already curated a worship playlist to play just to remember why and who I was laboring with, that God was present with us. He is present with us in the labor, in the delivery suite the entire time, and just to remember what his promises are. And I remember there was one point in labor which was quite funny. Like, it was the only time in my entire pregnancy where I felt like I was going to puke, and that was in the middle of labor. And I had my face over the bin already, and the song that was playing was, let me try to recall, it's quite funny. Do you remember? When I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority Jesus has given me. And so it's so funny because that's the exact song that was playing, and I had my mouth over the bin. It's like, God, you're so funny. I'm here like about to vomit. I didn't vomit in the end, and it gave me a boost of confidence, and that was like in the middle of labor. It was very long though.
So when we reached and they checked, you were only 1 cm dilated.
Yeah, I was, to my surprise, because I thought we had labored for quite a few hours at home already. So when we got there and she did a sweep and she was like, oh, 1 cm. I'm like, only? So, we
knew it was going to be a long day.
Yeah, I didn't want to pronounce it as it will be a long labor, but I was like, that's not great lah. I'm hoping for at least like 5 cm, right? And so when it was 1 cm, I was like, okay, we're already here, so let's just chill and enjoy this process.
So after Dr. Lai came by and he checked again and he estimated that he thinks Judah will come by before midnight, which still means a really long...
It's like probably like 5:30 p.m. Dr. Lai came at what time?
He came in the morning to check you
morning.
first.
Oh, okay.
But but we
Also,
just knew
yeah.
it was going to be a
So
long...
1 cm dilation per hour on
Yeah.
average, right? Yeah, so it was going to be a long labor. Yeah, so we just tried to be as chill as possible. Daniel really helped a lot because in the birth course that the online birth course that we did, there were certain things like a birth partner can do to help, which is like applying counter pressure to the bones and yeah, really just being there. Like we even talked through this beforehand, like what kind of touch would you like? Because I get very irritated if it's like this kind of touch, but like a firm grip, all of those things really help. So I mean, kudos to you for being like a great birth partner for me. Because I mean, a lot of times you have to do this motion, right, which is to apply counter pressure to the sides of my hips, and that's not an easy posture position to apply
My shoulder
pressure.
muscles were really aching,
Yes.
because it's like every 5 minutes or
Yeah.
so for
Yeah.
10, 12 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say, going into it, I feel like in general my pain tolerance is quite high, and I feel like I've gone through certain things where I know I can tahan the pain, but this was really something else. There were really some surges where I just felt like I wasn't in my body, I was somewhere else, and then I came back into my body because it was just that overwhelming. And it's a different kind of pain. Like I was talking to some friends and they said it's more like people who have really bad menstrual cramps can probably tahan, can probably withstand labor better. But I've never really had menstrual cramps all my life. So maybe my body just wasn't used to it. But I knew that that was my body's way of, what's that word? Dilating the cervix. And it's also baby helping to push himself out. He's like going further and further down the birth canal, right? And I would say there was also another prep that was very, very helpful, which was like the perineal stretching. And maybe, I don't know if we want to talk about how traumatizing this might have been, but yeah, even in the preparation process, we really just took every method that was recommended to us. So Dr. Lai said, if you use this device, or you can either do massages with your hand or use a device called the Epidural device. I don't know if there's another name for it. And it's essentially like a balloon that you stick into your vagina and you squeeze the balloon so that it expands and you can measure it every time. And that just helps to stretch your perineum so that you will be less likely to tear. And we did that like every night leading up to labor. And Dr. Lai had actually set us a goal. It was like, try to aim for 10 cm. At first it was like 8 or what. Then once I had gotten to 6.5 and he was like, okay, good, now let's aim for 10. So I think by the end of that, I had gotten to about 7.5-ish. Yeah, close to 8. And I think by the end of it, I only had a 1 cm tear.
Yeah, just one stitch.
Yeah, just one stitch, which was great. Praise the Lord. So anyway, let's go back to labor. And I think 5:30 came, and by that point, it was how many hours of labor? 3 a.m., 12, 14 and a half hours of labor. So 5:30 p.m. in the evening, I think Dr. Lai came over, and I think the nurse also came and advised, and she said, hey, you are 5 cm dilated. If you wanted to consider epidural, this would be the best chance in your labor to administer it, because it won't last so long after childbirth, and yeah, you'll be able to regain your senses back after baby is born. So she was very kind about it, even though in our birth plan we already said we wanted an unmedicated labor. But she shared so empathetically that I felt like, yeah, my heart was softened to it, and I wasn't somebody who was so stubborn to stick to my ideal. And we talked about it. You remember your reasoning, your rationale from your point of view?
I think seeing her go through so many contractions already, and I've seen her do high rocks and other difficult stuff, and this was a whole other level. And they estimated that because she's only 5 cm dilated, it's minimally another 5 hours. And she was having contractions like every 2 to 3 minutes. So I did a quick calculation. There's going to be hundreds more contractions, and I really think that it would have sapped all her energy. And so we had to balance out what was the worst case scenario, which was she would be too tired to push when
Active labor actually started.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if that happens, they would have to call for emergency
Emergency
C-section.
Yeah.
Which would probably be the worst case scenario. So
Yeah.
we prayed about it. We didn't want to be stubborn. We listened to expert medical advice. And knowing that it's still 5 to 7 hours more before Judah would come out, we felt like, if we did the epidural, she could rest and sleep
Yes.
and save her energy and still have the natural birth that we planned for. So, we took a while, and after that we decided that, I think based on all the options that we had at that time, having the epidural would be the best. And so we called for it, and even though it was a Sunday, the anesthetist came really soon. And
Hi, he's awake. We're talking about you, baby. And so, we talked about it, and I had peace, and so we went ahead with it. So that's another form of surrender. Like, I wasn't gonna be so stubborn to stick to my ideal no matter what. And mind you, I didn't have sleep the night before, so I'm running on like half an hour's sleep. And so, I knew that I needed to rest so that I could have enough energy to push. And we knew, like he said, we wanted to avoid a C-section. And nothing wrong with C-sections, just that in our goal of wanting to have as many children as possible, having a C-section would be increasingly difficult with every child. That would be increasingly more risky. So I wanted to strive for a natural birth as much as possible. So that happened, and then I think Dr. Lai even asked if we wanted to burst the water bag, which was actually quite a surprise to me because he doesn't usually do that. And I don't remember what the rationale was, but to me, he had already demonstrated that he was trustworthy, and if he as someone who really advocates for pro-natural birth is bringing up a medical intervention, then I'm likely to trust him because he doesn't usually do it. Afterwards, we actually also had a dose of oxytocin injected to speed up the delivery process. And so Dr. Lai basically said, "Oh, hi baby.
Hi, baby.
Say hi to everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Judah.
Just woke up from his nap.
Yes.
Hi,
Okay, you can join Papa and Mama.
Yeah, join us, okay?
You join us? Oh, what happened?
It's okay.
Oh,
This is Judah.
Judah.
Right after his nap.
Yes, happy boy. He's so happy.
Happy boy?
Yeah.
Happy boy?
Show everybody your
Say
happy
hi
face.
to everyone.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Judah Chia.
Judah Chia.
Oh.
Hi. Join us for this vlog.
Yeah.
Join us.
We're talking about the day you were born, baby.
Yeah.
Yes. And so they were quite confident that we would be able to have him in our arms by before midnight that night. Yeah. And so that was good news to me because I had been laboring for like 12 hours at that point already, 14 hours. And so after the epidural was put in, was injected, I really could sleep, which was incredible. So on the monitor, you could still see like the surges were happening, the contractions were happening, but I could close my eyes for the first time and just relax and chill. I actually I could take a selfie. We didn't take any photos and videos the entire time because it was just so overwhelming and we really wanted to be just present in the moment. And I managed to take a selfie and just send it to my family to let them know, I'm okay. We're still in the middle of laboring. And after that, I remember it was about like 10 plus already. The nurses came in and they checked again. They were like, 9 cm. Yeah, maybe 11. I
think it was 9 cm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could start pushing.
Yes.
While they called Dr. Lai to come over.
Yeah, so the nurses were already like, okay, try to push a little bit because my legs were so numb. They were like in the stirrups and just felt like dead weight. Yeah, but they already dialed down the epidural to as low as possible so that I could feel when the contractions were about to happen. So they almost feel like the start of menstrual cramps. Yeah, and so that would happen. I could feel it, but no pain, which was truly so mind-blowing. Thank God for medicine. Thank God for technology. And so when I started pushing, it was just the nurses. Then halfway through, Dr. Lai came, right? But I felt like that was actually the easiest part of labor for me. Because there was already no pain, but I felt like I had practiced enough. And kudos to Dr. Lai as well. A few weeks before I gave birth, he actually put the ultrasound scope in and asked me to practice contracting, which is like, he said, like taking a dump, basically taking a crap. And so it means that you're supposed to push it out naturally and you have to relax your pelvic floor. And so when he could see the immediate scan on the ultrasound machine, he could see that I was utilizing the right muscles and that was the right technique. So when the actual active labor was happening, I pushed the same way. And it just felt like within 5 sets, in my mind, I had compartmentalized it into like every surge I could do 3 strong pushes. There was enough time for 3 strong pushes, and it was just about like 5 sets of that, and he was out. And maybe you can share your perspective of what it was like. Watching.
Just holding a hand and supporting, and it just felt like, I think it was like 10 minutes. Or so of pushing, and it was interesting because he was coming out butt first. So I could see his butt coming out, and Dr. Lai was super chill, just letting everything happen naturally. So she was pushing in sets of 3, and by the 5th set, Judah was out, and because it's a breech delivery, so he had a PD on standby, pediatrician. So when he came out, we still wanted to let just don't cut the umbilical cord so soon. But because the risk of breech deliveries is possible injury at the hip.
What do they call it? Hip dysplasia.
So worst case, it could even be dislocated. So when the PD assessed him once he came out, she said she really needed to do a full body check quickly. So
she said he looked a little bit flat. In her words.
So
like,
I just quickly,
not very lively, I guess.
Probably. So I just quickly cut the umbilical cord, and she brought him just to the side table to have him checked, and it turns out it was okay. We were also prepared that for breech deliveries, the babies may not cry immediately. Sometimes like after a minute or so. So we were already told by Dr. Lai not to worry. But I think within 10-15 seconds, he cried, and so that was a relief.
It's a beautiful sound.
So they checked, and fortunately there was just some bruising on his hip. And she heard a few clickish sounds, which it was nothing too serious, but we just had to bring him back for a check a month later. But we love Gleneagles, and they immediately just did a quick cleanup of Judah and passed him back to his mom. And they gave us they said for the first 1 or 2 hours just do quality time, skin to
Golden
skin.
hour.
And he managed to latch immediately, so he started drinking. And after she had skin to skin, I had as well. And I think Gleneagles really pushed for that, and just to give us that space, So that was the end of a really long day, because we reached the hospital at before 7 a.m.
So 16 November 2025 at 7 a.m.-ish.
And he was delivered at about 11:30 p.m. That same day.
11:24 p.m.
So it was really, really long, and nothing much went our way. We thought we would go in with good sleep, have energy, but turns out we were on very little sleep, and it wasn't exactly what we hoped for, but we knew it was perfectly God's plan. And we also learned not to be stubborn and to trust God's prompting, but also trust the expert opinion of the doctors and nurses. And I think really the whole experience was as good as it gets.
I agree.
And we were comfortable, at the hospital. You were able to rest, and even the recovery process. How do you find the first few days?
I think it was good because firstly, when we went to Gleneagles to tour for the first time, they have posters plastered everywhere saying like golden hour, skin to skin, and it was just everything that we already wanted, and that's why I was so happy that in the end things turned out this way. Even though he didn't turn, he wasn't head down first, butt out first. But that meant that we had to give up Thomson to go to Gleneagles, and that first 2 hours was just magical and really so intimate and beautiful. I wish everybody, every mom and every dad would get this experience as well, where yeah, the weighing can be done later, all the admin and stuff can be done later. Firstly, it's just to enjoy that our baby is with us, that he's finally in our arms after 9 months. And you know, when he first came out and they placed him on my chest, he was just like a gray, a gray little slimy fella, and I just thought, wow! And I was crying anyway because finally I get to see this little baby that has been growing inside of me, that I've been talking to and praying for 9 months, and it was just surreal. It was beautiful, and the Bible verse is true that I will forget the pain of labor when the joy of the baby being born is here. And so, yeah, that was really how I felt in that moment. I'm so glad that we both got to enjoy uninterrupted time with him the first 2 hours. Then after that, the nurses were... So another thing that Gleneagles is really big on is breastfeeding. And that's also something that I wanted to... that I was praying for the grace that I could do that, provide milk for my baby. But also I've been advised by some of my friends that don't hold it too tightly because you might get disappointed, and the stress of trying to make it happen on your own can also interfere with the whole process. So the incredible thing about God's design is oxytocin, the love hormone, is the hormone that triggers labor. It's also the hormone that triggers milk flow and the letdown. And so this beautiful love hormone and bonding hormone is the one that makes mother and baby feel close together. And so I feel like the first few, we had 2 nights at Gleneagles. Hi baby, 2 nights at Gleneagles, and every 3 hours they would wheel this little baby, the newborn, into our room. So we could essentially choose. We could choose if we wanted to have him in our room with us, or have him in the nursery and only have the nurses bring them to us every 3 hours. So we opted for the latter so that I could actually get some rest. So I think the first time he latched on right after birth, and he did so well, because I was prepared that, you know, babies have to go through a process as well to learn how to latch properly. And big shout out to our friend Yiling of Baby Planner, because I feel like if we hadn't done that prenatal course with her, like prenatal private class with her, to really learn like the techniques and give me the confidence of what to do in the moment, I don't think I would have been as confident to do it right from the start. Even though the nurses at Gleneagles were great, they also have an in-house lactation consultant. But yeah, because I already had prior training and exposure, I knew exactly what to do, and baby just latched on so well. You did so well, baby. You knew where to go, you knew what to do. And so we just did that every 3 hours so that my body could know that, okay, this is the time to produce firstly colostrum and then milk. I think the next morning, the lactation consultant actually came by and she tried to hand express some colostrum, and we actually had quite a good yield for him. Really beautiful, beautiful sustenance for a little newborn. He was 2.93 kg, about 51 cm, kind of long baby, but Dr. Lai said he's a petite but healthy baby, which was true. Hi. And he was so cute. He is so cute. Yeah, we had good yield of colostrum. And so it was wonderful. I think our experience at Gleneagles was great because the food was great too. I guess you can testify to that.
Yeah, we just ordered
Lobster.
Lobster, everything. They had like lobster porridge, clay pot rice with lobster. So yeah, you know, we paid good money, so we made the best use of it. But yeah, it was just a great experience. The room was great. It was all suites, all solo suites, so they don't do any sharing rooms, which was great. And yeah, so enough space for me to sleep as well. And yeah, so we did that for 2 nights. We had friends and family come over.
Oh, they even had a little like cocktail celebration.
Yeah.
They say cocktail but there's no alcohol.
Yeah.
And
It was
really nice. So we had his parents and my family, my parents and my brother come over, and we just had a little celebration. Everyone could take photos with him and just really rejoice that he's here with us. Yeah, I'm so happy. Yeah.
I think, you know, all in all, this process really taught us that, you know, we have to hold loosely,
Yeah.
you know, and especially we know God's plans are way better than ours. And yeah, so many things didn't go according to our plan, but the process still turned out amazing. The
Yeah.
outcome was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, he's safe. You know, mother is safe, and you know, I think that's all we could ask for. And of course, he had his usual. You know, he had jaundice. You know, for quite long, and we had to go for many medical appointments. But you know, turns out his hip issue was all good.
Yeah.
So
Praise
he
the
got
Lord.
cleared. So yeah, we really could not have asked for a better experience. And yeah, you know, time flies. It's already 5 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, in our
Oh my
subsequent
gosh.
videos, we will share about the actual parenting journey, you know, from confinement to where we
Yes.
are now. But yeah, we just wanted to thank God for
Yeah.
just amazing experience in delivery and in the whole 9 months.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
thankful.
And I also want to just bring up the way that God can speak to us through songs. So I compiled a worship playlist, right? But it was like just played in random order, and we also didn't know. I mean, laboring was, I think in the end I labored for 17 and a half hours. So you don't really know at what moment what song is going to be playing, what lyrics are going to play. But I remember when we were making the decision about the epidural, the song that was playing was I Surrender All. And I just felt like, yes, I was brought back to the question that God had asked me, do you trust me with your body? Like, yes, I trust you. And that also involves like trusting the birth team that we had put together and that God had placed there in that delivery room with us. Then after that, right before he was born, the song that was playing was Yet Not I, But Through Christ in Me. And the line that struck me was, I labor on in weakness and rejoicing, for in my need his power is displayed. And that's exactly it. I mean, at that point, I was like at the end of myself. I don't think I could have gone through physically, mentally, emotionally. But I really just leaned on the Lord and leaned on my birth partner. Daniel was such a great partner. And when he was born, he was born to the song Gratitude. And it was specifically the bridge. So, you've got a lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. And that's incredible because his name, Judah, means praise. And we did get his name in the middle of a worship session. And his cry is really like like a roaring lion. And I just believe like God is going to do such great things with his voice, both literally and figuratively. And so we're just so thankful for this happy little boy, Judah Chia, who was born on the 16th of November 2025. And all glory to God, like everything went according to his plan, not ours, and it couldn't have been any better. So yeah, we're thankful for you.
Yeah. Time to get you some milk.
Yes.
Cool. We'll see you
See you
guys
next
in the
time.
next video.
Bye.
Bye.